It is Thursday, September 26th at Protestia Studios, and this is an intelligence briefing coming to you from Protestia.com, where, as always, go to find the latest in Christian polemics and discernment news. Sign up for the Insurgency email blast and head over to patreon.com/Protestia to help us out financially, starting at only $5.95 a month. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get into the headlines. First headline at Protestia.com. Pro-life group spends $500,000 on abortion misinformation campaign. The pro-life Women Speak Out PAC is spending a reported $500,000 on a TV and digital ad campaign seeking to show that the rhetoric and misinformation regarding abortion drugs from presidential candidate Kamala Harris and her bloodthirsty band of Democrats have led to the deaths of at least 2 women. The group, a partner of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, plans to target Georgia, specifically targeting cities like Atlanta, Augusta, Macon, and Savannah with ads like the following.
Democrats' abortion lies put women at risk. No Georgia law blocks life-saving care for women or treating complications after abortion. But because of reckless misinformation, Candy Miller was afraid to seek the care she needed, deserved, and could have gotten. And doctors didn't save Amber Thurman with an operation that was 100% legal. Candy and Amber should be alive. The left's scare tactics are deadly. Women Speak Out PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
SBA Pro-Life America President Marjorie Dannenfelser said in a statement, Democrats led by Kamala Harris are lying about pro-life laws and women are dying. Amber Thurman and Candy Miller died after they suffered complications from dangerous abortion drugs and did not receive appropriate, completely legal emergency care. Georgia's law, like pro-life laws in every other state, allows emergency care, miscarriage care, and treatment for ectopic pregnancy. The laws do not penalize women who have abortions, and they use plain, commonly accepted legal language. There would be no confusion if abortion advocates were not spreading confusion. Amber, Candy, and their babies should be alive today, but Democrats are putting countless lives at risk, and we will relentlessly call them out. You can read more about this over at Protestia.com, but of course we strongly support conservative groups, anti-abortion groups, correcting the record and helping save more lives. Next headline at Protestia exclusive. North Point Community Church pastor and leader sponsoring an upcoming Pride event. Andy Stanley's North Point Community Church continues to be a safe haven for LGBTQ affirming pastors and leaders to work directly against the cause of Christ and the gospel to gay people. And this is no more clear than the recent news that Renovus is sponsoring a brunch at an upcoming Pride parade. Renovus Network is a pro-LGBTQ plus advocacy group whose mission is to, quote, connect LGBTQ plus individuals to reclaim and develop their relationship with Jesus and envision a world where no one has to choose between their faith and sexual orientation or gender identity. Of course, the Bible supports no such thing as a sexual orientation or gender identity. And any identity based in sin is something that Jesus and salvation has full power over, and is not something that you need to bring with you or synergize in any way. We've talked about this before. This is one of Renovus's board members, Deborah Causey, who's a gay-affirming North Point Community Church pastor and the director of Care Network. She has been with North Point for over 25 years and is in a very high position within their 30,000 member multi-site church. She previously revealed that she sometimes counsels parents with gay kids not to attend North Point Community Church because it isn't affirming enough. I wonder, I suspect Andy Stanley probably knows about that. Maybe it's all part of the plan. But you can read more about North Point Community Church and their continued advocacy for LGBTQ ideas and anti-biblical theology. Read more at Protestia. Next headline at Protestia.com. Johnny Hunt seeks up to $100 million in damages from the Southern Baptist Convention for economic, reputational, and emotional harm. Can we say we told you so? Disgraced pastor and former SBC president Johnny Hunt is seeking at least $75 million in damages, up to $100 million, from the Southern Baptist Convention, alleging economic harms of $15.4 million, harm to reputation of $30 million to $45 million, and emotional harm between $30 and $45 million, according to newly released documents from the ex-Twitter account SBC Litigation. You can read more about this at Protestia, including all of the sordid details. But yeah, we warned that this would happen when you hired an unbiblical investigative firm, when you did not stay as a Christian organization, when the Southern Baptist Convention did not stay within the boundaries of biblical justice, jurisprudence, legal logic and definitions. The right of the accused to face their accuser, to be presumed innocent, all the things that we sort of take for granted in Western culture and in Western legal tradition. All of that comes from the Bible. And now these chickens are coming home to roost for the SBC. We'll talk about that in a couple more headlines. Next headline at Protestia.com, Mike Cosper and the Pestering Demons of Our Present Age. This is an op-ed worth reading, using Mike Cosper of Christianity Today as the example, and his interview, his one-on-one interview with the evil Dr. Francis Collins, who we do not have enough bad things to say about over at Protestia.com. You can read about this in the op-ed, but speaking specifically about Mike Cosper, he is an anti-fundamentalist, anti-everything you stand for, director of Christianity Today Media. Few express loathing, contempt for church-going evangelicals like Cosper does, and he recently did public relations for the evil Francis Collins, who by all accounts should be repentant in sackcloth and ashes for his crimes against humanity. Collins, the director, or former director, I think, of the National Institutes for Health, fancies himself an evangelical and has no shortage of idolaters worshiping his image, also claiming the same. Collins told evangelicals that it was their moral obligation to take an experimental vaccine because Jesus told us the truth would set us free. For the gain of filthy lucre on the part of the pharmaceutical industry, Collins told us it was our religious duty to put toxins in our children, and for that a millstone should be placed around his neck. For this he was praised by Tim Keller, who we might call a modern-day Socinian in a lab coat, according to Phil Johnson. I think Phil actually called Francis Collins the Socinian in a lab coat, but might have called Keller. The shoe might fit. He called Francis Collins a modern-day prophet, I think it was. Not Phil Johnson, but Tim Keller did that. Francis Collins was heralded by the who's who of big evangelicalism as a faith-healing minister. Francis Collins teamed up with woke VeggieTales creator and smarmy obfuscator Phil Vischer to teach our children that God didn't create the world as the Bible says he did. When confronted by Megan Basham regarding his support for the pro-abortion, pro-LGBTQ Collins, Russell Moore ran away from her at the airport like a vampire runs away from a crucifix as fast as his little hairless legs would carry him. Furthermore, this absolute monster of a human being, Collins that is, blamed evangelicals for killing thousands by vaccine hesitancy. Collins, more akin to Legion's host than a vessel of the Holy Spirit, advocates for research conducted on murdered babies, and says God does too, ever as much wicked as any doctor in Hitler's Nazi party. In his spare time, when he's not celebrating Pride, Collins dropped $8 million for an app designed for homosexual male children to report their sexcapades. The man embraces references to pregnant women as, quote, pregnant people, refusing to call such an unscientific term unscientific. So what did Mike Cosper do? He interviewed Collins glowingly, affirming him as a Christian brother, ignoring all of his actual crimes against the American people and humanity at large, and ran public relations interference. Here's Mike Cosper tweeting, I sat down with former NIH Director Collins to talk about lessons learned during COVID, things he'd do differently, the nature and limitations of science, and the experience of having your own community turn against you. Well, we turned against him because he's an unrepentant, evil sinner. That's why we turned against him. We would have been supportive of him had he, even come close to approaching the Bible's standard, the standard of righteousness on any of the things that he did. He wasn't even close. He was the opposite of that, Mike. That's why we turned against him. One wonders what in the devil's hell of a community includes both Francis Collins and the rest of us. We know nothing about this community except that it has nothing to do with Christ. It is, in fact, anti-Christian to its very core. You can read more about this over at Protestia under the headline, Mike Cosper and the Pestering Demons of Our Present Age. Last headline for this intelligence briefing, Spending God's Money Johnny Hunt lawsuit is just a chicken coming home to roost. This is an op-ed over at Protestia. If you're reporting on or learning about Johnny Hunt's lawsuit against the Southern Baptist Convention's Executive Committee, you need to do your research and understand this corruption goes back much further than you might think. It might seem offensive that megachurch millionaire ex-pastor Johnny Hunt went through a secret restoration process that was hidden from both his church and the SBC. Does it seem offensive that Johnny Hunt is suing the SBC Executive Committee for firing him when his extramarital panty-pulling but no penetration, I'll have you know, affair was discovered? Does it seem offensive that discovery related to this lawsuit demonstrates that he was making more than $1 million a year? And at least a sizable chunk of that income was derived from SBC tithes given to the cooperative program? This is offensive, of course, but none of this is shocking if you're vaguely familiar with the North American Mission Board's long history of cover-up, corrupt payoffs, and financial mismanagement. In fact, all of the sordid tales of financial greed and fiscal mismanagement were foreshadowed in 2007, including the central character of one Johnny Hunt in the book Spending God's Money. In this book, the author chronicles the SBC's cover-up of the financial mismanagement of former NAM president Bob Record, his misdeeds, which include spending through $1 million slush funds annually, yes, annually, in which no receipts were required, jet setting to Europe to attend red carpet movie premieres on the cooperative program dime, buying ice sculptures for NAM parties, and paying for NAM staff retreats to the Bahamas and cruises to Alaska, led to his reluctant ouster in 2006. Read more about this at this op-ed over at protestia.com under the headline, Spending God's Money, Johnny Hunt lawsuit is just a chicken coming home to roost, and catch yourself up on why this shouldn't be too much of a surprise to anybody who is familiar with the history of financial mismanagement and corruption in the Southern Baptist Convention. Thank you for tuning into this edition of the Intelligence Briefing for the 26th. It is Thursday the 26th, yes, of 2024. Stay tuned to Protestia.com for all of your latest in Christian polemics and discernment news. We will see you again real soon. As always, Semper Reformanda.